Okay, I see people are coming in. Hi everyone, it's Andy Reinecke here. Just our housekeeping, if you don't mind, please make sure that your mics are muted and your cameras are off. I think we'll probably switch them off from our side. Please join us in this conversation. So if you have any questions, please put them into the chat box. I'll moderate. So at a convenient time, I'll interrupt Melanie and put your comments or your questions to her. The intention is that it is an interactive session, so please don't be shy to ask questions or to make comments. Remember also that this gets you CPD points. So if you have a designation with ASDSA, you can get your CPD points. That link will be in the chat box and we'll flag it up at the end of the session.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Melanie Mulholland. I am currently with the Cape Engineers and Founders Association. This morning, the conversation starter is regarding research that was conducted earlier this year on a rapid assessment of reskilling and upskilling and arising from the effects of the COVID-19 crisis. You can see on the screen all the bodies and parties that were involved in the process. I just want to put the slide on. So why was this rapid assessment research conducted? Basically, it was aimed to speed up recovery from the effects of COVID-19. And what I want to tell you up front that the ILO provides guidelines on how a rapid assessment report should be done. And I'm reiterating here that it has to be short, concise, and to the point, and only offers a limited number of concrete recommendations that could possibly make a difference at least cost. So there's a special focus in today's conversation regarding women and youth and training, skilling, and upskilling, because they are seen as the most vulnerable within the labor market downturns. So I'm just so here is just a bit of the rationale and indicating that a rapid assessment was an easy way to support identification and anticipation of skills. It's an integral part of the National Labour Market Information System, which we know as the LMIS, and to obviously ensure more matching of skills supply and demand in targeted African Union member states. But I also want to alert you at this point that these rapid assessments were done globally. More than 126 countries participated. And within these type of interventions under this component, it contributes to the overall objective of enhancing employability for the African youth. So again, what is a rapid assessment and the features thereof? It's concise, it's brief, it's a clear analysis of rapid implementation. It highlights repurposing existing programs, indicates how we can do things differently using innovation and adaptability. And it's working with what we have at our disposal. And again, it's a limited number of workable recommendations. And there are a number of takeaways. How the research methods were combined were that we took a literature review, and after today's session, Andy and his team will send you the full report together with this presentation that you can go through in your own time. So I'm highlighting here the importance of knowing, with regards to the enterprise survey done, other sectors were included, and that was clothing, textile, e-commerce, the retail, banking, and insurance. But for the sake of today, I'm only going to focus on the women and youth points. So also consultations or interviews and focus groups were done, as well as individual online surveys. And this was validated by a task team made up of stakeholders comprising labor, government ministries, and community organizations that look after women and youth. So, and you can also see at the bottom, we call it the sprints. We went from the initial engagement with the ILO all the way to the stakeholder validation of what had been done. So the point of today, and what I think needs to be highlighted, is the fact that youth and women are vulnerable groups in any population, South Africa specifically. And COVID, unfortunately, pushed our unemployment rates to as high as 63.2% for the 15 to 24-year-olds, and up to 41.2% for the 25 to 34-year-olds. So that's what we classify as youth. And then if you look, it's approximately 3.1 million, which equates to 29.8% out of 10.3 million young people aged between 15 to 24, and they're not in employment, education, or training. This was also evidenced in the global trends as well. And so, with regards to the women, I'm going to move to the right-hand side of the screen. They were the most severely impacted by COVID, and women made up the majority of the community and social services. They were the ones affected with childhood or childcare duties, and that affected their ability to work, seek work, and work the same hours. It really limited their opportunities for skills development. The type of jobs were also affected because here we're domestic cleaners, childminders, and cashiers, and many are casual employees, and they really fell through the safety nets. If we look at the UIF and distress benefits applications, I'll give you an example. Female employment was down about approximately 8%. And if you think that women make up 60% of the unemployed, thereafter, 39% applied for the UIF and only 37% applied for social relief. And that was as of October 2020. So it's quite an eye-opener. Then if we look at the youth, and here the figures, as I mentioned previously, youth unemployment is 41.8%. That means that 4 in 10 young females are not in employment or education. But the problem with youth, it predates, we know this, COVID-19. The pandemic just worsened the problem considerably. There's a need here to look for opportunities to skill and reskill and support the youth transition into employment. We all know that. Even more importantly is the notion of self-employment. That becomes quite urgent. And even though we've spent so much money and significant investment in skills leveled or targeted at the youth, unemployment really remains a huge obstacle. So new interventions need to be explored here. And not just that, we need ubiquitous, short, powerful, quick interventions, but with the aim of long-term employment. So basically what I'm saying to you here is COVID really exposed the shortcomings of education and training, the systems, and as well as some of the gross inequalities we experience. I also want you to know that in the detailed report, there are general issues which we covered and reported on. And the 3 main ones I want to tell you before I go into this slide is, 1 was the unsuitability of the NQF qualifications. I don't think for the sake of this audience, I need to go into a lot of detail here, but we really need to relook our paradigm of what we need. We need real short-term solutions. The NQF qualifications that as we know, are costly, they're lengthy, they're rigid, and they're resource intensive. And most of the time, what I hear from industry is it just doesn't respond to their needs. It's not keeping up with technological advancements, it's not keeping up with their products or their process changes in real time. So those are the expectations of the employers, and we need to take that into consideration. Another area that was of concern was the temporary employer or employee relief scheme that underwent some changes and provided an opportunity not just to provide income, but also to provide a platform for skills. And what I can tell you became evident when we did the research was it was not used for that purpose. A lot of individuals who were interviewed just said it was too onerous, it was too administrative, and the big risk was they wouldn't get the funds in time. Another point for me is the prioritizing of online learning, and with the 4IR and the impending 5IR, it's important that we need to move and prioritize online learning. But when we do that, it also again highlights gross inequalities. Not everybody has access to online learning. So
Melanie,
the reason,
Melanie, sorry to interrupt,
yes.
just a question from John Arneson. He says, assuming the funding of PSET skills development in SA is not the problem, why do we find ourselves in this situation? What's your thought on that?
There's a variety of reasons. And, you know, this may sound controversial, but from my experience, there's just too many people involved, and we talk and we talk and we talk, and we just don't implement. And those that have implemented and the lessons learned, it's just not known. I sit in many forums where even today, and these people are supposed to know the legislative environment, are not even aware that the apprentice environment has changed. And that's a concern for me. So we talk and we talk, action is what's needed. That's for me the real issue, is the action. I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Melanie.
Okay, so one of the main reasons within the survey findings for employment reduction was, and I'm just going to highlight the main ones, was the drop in demand for goods or services. I think all industries saw that. And following that was the cash flow. So without cash, you can't keep your employment numbers up. And then following that, you also have difficulty getting to your customers and your clients during COVID-19. However, I must say, South Africa really became innovative and creative in different ways of trying to reach their customers and maintain some sort of momentum. But if we look at having to fill the jobs that were lost because of COVID, I think that 41% you see on the right-hand side of the screen that I've circled, that indicates the importance of retrenchment migration schemes to prevent job losses and equip workers with skills. And if you remember what I said on the previous page, the training layoff scheme was not as well used as it could have been, and because it's so onerous and intensive to do so. Also, it's noticeable that 35% said they would recruit fully skilled workers, which implies that skills development would be kept to a minimum. They want people who've already got the skills needed, so they wouldn't need to focus on so much training and development. So this slide shows job changes due to COVID-19. I think no matter where you are in any organization, this was a huge wake up. If you're one individual, you're now doing more in a team, especially if your organization underwent retrenchments or restructuring. We know with some of the lockdown levels, only 50% or different percentages of the workforce were allowed back in on premises. The rest worked from home. So a lot of individuals had to undertake additional tasks, had to make more of their own decisions, and had to quickly learn the digital platform, and that was to communicate electronically. And the digital divide in South Africa, please do not negate just because we all seem to have smartphones. Not everybody has access to communicate electronically. And then task, the actual work we were doing just became more and more complex, meaning that, and then I moved to the right-hand side, it was indicative of new ways to deliver the goods and services that an organization was dealing with, and that would require additional technical skills or product knowledge and know-how. So working in teams became critical, whether you were working from home or back on the shop floor, the use of digital communication, and yeah, managing more tasks. And then not to negate the fact that health and safety at work became top priority for those organizations trying to get back to, what's the phrase they use, the new normal. So what are the takeaways I want to give you?
Sorry, Melanie, just before
Yes.
you go on, just a comment from Melanie Ritchie's. Firstly, too much red tape with TERS funding and takes too long for the funding to be released, and
Yep.
much more stress and workloads increases on staff, which echoes
Yep.
what you're saying. Cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Back to you.
Thank you. This slide I've put up is the takeaways, and here I just, I'm going to go to point 4, and then I'll go back to the other points. It's 4 that we're really interested in. Before I start with point 4, here's my takeaway for you from today, if nothing else. Even though I've covered this and it's, it's the research, it's the findings that we have, there are a lot of opportunities here for skills development, be that for recovery, be it for the safety, be it for employability, and be it for workers who were adversely affected. There are plenty of opportunities. You just have to stop talking about them and get it implemented. So why are we not doing better? Well, yeah, as South Africans, we plan and we plan and we plan, but again, implementation is weak. Accountability and service delivery are issues. And here what I found very interesting when I was doing the research was the understanding of what actually is consequent management, which was quite a shock for me. You'd think with ethics and the fact that everybody is anti-corruption, the consequent management would be high on a lot of companies' priorities, but it wasn't. Poor timekeeping, project and cost management also became issues, governance, leadership, management challenges. And what I found really interesting was, as much as we want to change, there was a huge proportion who cited an unwillingness to change. And what do we do when we fear? We're unwilling. We don't know what's expected of us or what we're supposed to do. So change management becomes even more important. And also the evidence, follow the evidence, it's there. We need to use it. So other takeaways for the social partners and any other labor market actors is, 1, we don't have to make everything a skills development response. These choices, as they're listed there, really place a heavy burden on the national skills system. We have the elements of a skills system of developed countries like Germany, the UK, and Australia. But seriously, we overcomplicate it. We have programs of developed and developed countries like the dual education system. Germany is a good example here. We also have really good youth, women, and people with disability projects on the go, as well as sector-specific projects like centers of specialization. But we need to get them going or get traction to not just do the pilots, but now implement them to get the ball rolling. Our skills system is slow, rigid, and inflexible. And 12 months, and now we're nearly 2 years, going towards 2 years, if you think, sure, in 3 months, the end of the year again. And there has been no rapid skills response, really. For the CETAs, it appears it's business as usual. And what I'm saying to you as skills providers or skills development facilitators or anybody involved in skills development, here's your opportunity. We have to stop being fixated with long-term skills planning. We need action. And you can't sacrifice one for the other. It doesn't make any sense. I don't need to tell all of you here about the misconception for full qualifications is the only legitimate form of learning. And the education training system is based on the assumption that NQF is the only legitimate form. It actually irritates me because diversity in learning forms that should be given legitimacy and recognition could be one-on-one learning, the toolbox talks that take place. There's a variety of interventions. They don't all have to be registered on the NQF. It doesn't make sense. The NQF cannot respond rapidly to what industry and business needs. So perhaps in closing, what I want to say is we need to broaden our conception of what constitutes learning. And
Melanie, some comments, again from John Arneson. Maybe go back to your previous slide. It says, hi, the red highlighted sentence is the harsh reality. Do you think that SAP set policymakers and implementers realize this?
Yes, they do. And I'm pleased to say I had input from the likes of BUSA, Business Unity South Africa. They have a direct impact on policy. So yes, they are very aware of it.
Okay. Interestingly enough, we've asked Dr. Julie Riddy to talk at our AGM that's coming up in October on the issue of micro-credentialing and what is the NQF response to the demand for micro-credentialing. So I think that's going to be an interesting presentation. Everybody, if you get that date into your diary. Then comment from Sharon Blino. Hi, Melanie, fantastic discussion, making so much sense. Kubutso, you raised your hand. If you have a comment, please won't you type it into the chat box? And is there anything anybody else wants to comment? Please put it into the chat box.
Can I make a point here with regards to the micro learning that you mentioned? To me, it's, it is important, and perhaps we need different formats or, based on digital credentials or micro degrees. And whilst it's mooted by some HRD experts as an effective way to rapidly upskill and reskill your whole workforce, it's also seen to be very cost effective and it is widely accessible. But in saying that, I'm going back to the inequalities that exist. A white collar worker will have access. Blue collar workers don't necessarily. So we have to rethink our, it's a whole paradigm shift.
And then again from John Arneson, the NQF and the SAP system are not one and the same. I agree that there are many other components that comprise the SAP set system. Okay.
Yes, I'm not sure if that's I take it that's a statement.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Melanie, do you want to then? John actually says it's a question. He says, do you agree? I think you do.
Yes and no.
You do agree. Yeah.
Yes, I do. But there's also a lot of contradictions. And again, I go back to there's two. If we look at the skills development environments, and I've said this for a number of years, there are really too many chiefs and not enough people doing the actual work. We talk things to death. We make beautiful plans. We really do. But it's the implementation that's lacking. And we don't focus on the lessons learned. Even if something doesn't work, we need to know so we can get better, make improvements. And I really think from a CETA's perspective, they have to listen to the members. They have to listen to their stakeholders.
Then a comment from Jonathan Brawns, the importance of the workplace in learning cannot be overemphasized. The workplace has got to be at the core of learning.
I agree. And nothing can take away from somebody's experience.
Yeah. And then John Arneson, again, thank you for a very good presentation and for highlighting the SAP systemic shortcomings.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool, Melanie. Maybe move on to the last slides where we can post the CPD link and such like. And Angelique will post the CPD link now. So if you're looking for CPD points, the link is up in the chat box. Are there any final questions or comments for Melanie, from anyone?
If I may, just to reiterate that ASDSA will send out the full report as well as the presentation, and people are welcome to email me or contact me if they would like to chat or just get more information. I will make myself available.
Melanie, you thinking about that report that you sent me, the PDF with the validated rapid response report? Is that the one you're thinking about?
Yes, please.
Okay, I've just put that link into the chat box.
Thank you.
So if you want to download it, it is there. Comment from Bronwyn Peterson, very informative and well presented. Nice feedback, Melanie.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Any final comments before we close? Okay, chat box is all quiet. Great, Melanie, thank you so much. It's been a very instructive session. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome. Take care.
Great. Thanks. Bye-bye, everyone.